So when you're edge highlighting, there are essentially two different ways to do it. One way is super easy. The other one, honestly, just requires practice. So we'll cover the easy one first. So on my palette, since our black is actually blue, we can highlight it with blue. So I'm starting out with Thunderhawk Blue layer paint from Citadel. And these layer paints are actually a very, very good consistency, usually straight out of the pot, for doing these edge highlights. And so you can get a little bit on your brush. You don't want it overloaded. And then take the side of your brush. And if you have an exposed edge, like we do here, you can just lightly run your brush along that edge and the paint will catch there and you get a really nice sharp crisp line. In other places, sometimes you actually have to draw the line. And so drawing lines for new painters can be a little difficult because there's four things that go into actually being able to draw a sharp line. So one, you have to stabilize yourself. So I know you guys can't see my body, but my elbows are on the table to minimize any shaking coming from my torso. And then if I'm holding the miniature, I'm bracing my hands together so I have as fine motor control as possible. The second thing that's going to play into this is the consistency of your paint. And this is the, art more so than science. If your paint's too thick, you're going to get a super wide line, and that's not what you want. If your paint's too thin, it'll flow too easily off your brush, and you end up with a puddle on the miniature instead of a line, and you don't want that either. So usually, like I said, the consistency of the Citadel layer paints are usually great for edge highlighting. All you need is to make sure that your brush has a little bit of moisture on it, like rinse it out, get the excess off on the back of your hand, and typically you're ready to go. Now, if you use other paint brands, you may need to thin your paint. You might need to mix it with some thicker medium. Every paint brand's going to be a little bit different. Now, the third thing that you need to worry about is brush load. So how much paint is actually on your brush. And I'll show you guys what an appropriate amount looks like. But if you have too little, it'll dry out on your brush and you can't get a lot of work done without having to go and get more paint. Or if you have too much, again, you're not going to be able to get a sharp line. There's too much paint, it's going to kind of go everywhere. The last thing, which I've never really heard anyone talk about this, it's something that expert painters, I think, kind of pick up intuitively, is how much pressure you're applying on your brush. So when you press down really hard, it causes the hairs on the brush to flare out, and you end up getting a super wide line. So you can try this for yourself to kind of practice on your palette. So you want to get to an appropriate amount of paint, which is about that. And if you push down really hard, you see you get a wide line. Now, if we reload our brush and kind of reset, and then we're really, really conscious about not applying a ton of pressure, you see that line I can get is way thinner. So you don't want to apply a ton of pressure on your brush when you're trying to draw a sharp line. Now, the other thing, so we'll call this 4B, is you want to brush with a really good tip. So this is where that liner brush that I was talking about comes in handy, because we have this really sharp tip with this long belly, so it can actually hold paint but still draw a sharp line. So let me show you guys what this will look like, and hopefully I don't screw this up on camera. Even though I've been doing this for 20 some odd years, we do still make mistakes. So again, my hands are braced, elbows on the table, so that all I'm really doing is moving my fingers, and I can draw that really sharp line just like that. So when you're highlighting, you can also do what I like to call a second stage, but this is a very sparing layer that you're really applying in a very small amount in very targeted places. So usually like sharp corners where two edges meet or in the middle of an existing highlight. So what you're going to do is step up your color. So we started with Thunderhawk Blue for highlighting those black areas. We're now going to step up to Fenrisian Gray. So you can tell it's very, very light. So you don't want this going all over the place. So this is probably one of the few times where using this insane detail brush actually makes sense. So you just want to get a little bit of the paint and then brace yourself. And we're just going to apply a dot of this right on that corner. And then we'll get a lot of that excess off. And right in the center of this edge, we can add a really sharp highlight right in the middle. And those are going to be your highest points of reflection. So any rivets that are, going to be getting extra light, you can also highlight those in this color